Rumors, and more rumors. That's where we are. That's the stage of the offseason that we are in, especially with the 76ers needing to build out the roster. Welcome to the PHLY Sixers podcast. Here alongside, as always, Derek Bodner and Kyle Neubeck. I'm Devon Givens. Brianna producing. All of you in the chat, as always, we look forward to discussing some hoops on this Wednesday. And another name has popped up. And I'll be honest as we start this one, because when people would throw the name back out there after the trade deadline of one OG Anunoby, while we had to dissect him through the Sixers series, he did some really good things in helping them close that series out and taking down Philadelphia on to the next series against Indiana that they eventually lose. He gets hurt again. Forget about the injury piece. I never thought that they would even have an opportunity once again to be in the conversation, because once they made their run, it was a deep enough run. He fit what they like to do. He's not leaving New York. Well, could he? Is it possible? And we have a report coming from New York from a very well-sourced Nick beat reporter. And we're going to talk about that a little bit today. We'll get into some All-NBA stuff a little bit later because they announced that tonight. Does Tyrese Maxey make the All-NBA squad? We'll discuss that, and we'll also kind of look at the Western Conference and preview that game and flashback into last night where, once again, people don't know how to inbound the basketball. Kyle, what's happening, man?
What do we need to do, like a league-wide inbounding class, or bring back have Hubie Brown step out of the broadcast booth and just teach people how to throw inbounds passes?
Absolutely.
That's been driving me crazy.
Go back to high school, man. Something.
It is so much less stressful when that's happening to a team when you're not emotionally invested in it.
But they've done it twice in the end. They did it against the Knicks and now the Celtics.
Look, there's a little bit of reffing controversy with that game.
Sure.
A lot of inbounding controversy. But that game was filled with so many mental mistakes, really on both sides of the ball. Fouling three-point shooters, really bad turnovers, obviously the last 3 seconds of regulation, just incredible theater, and I'm so happy I had zero emotional investment in any of those teams.
Watching Tyrese Halliburton just dribble the ball out of bounds
twice. All completely unforced.
Well, yeah, at least, excuse me, the one in overtime at least was like,
no,
okay, Drew Holiday's hounding him, doing all that. The one in regulation, he just gave it away.
Focus,
Oh, my God.
Insane.
Unbelievable.
And that's with his left hand. So you talk about Jaylen Brown all the time with the left hand. He can't dribble with his left hand. Tyrese Halliburton, what are you doing, man? Just get the ball across half court.
Hell of a shot by Jaylen Brown, by the way.
That was it was.
People were on, at least some people were on Siakam. I understand why he didn't foul there. That's a high difficulty.
You could screw that
quick
up.
Close out, then you're giving them 3 free throws. And so, anyway, more to the subject at hand.
It was an interesting game, though.
It was an interesting game. The reason that we are bringing OG back up, because I'll be honest, I have treated him as if he's completely off the board for a bunch of reasons.
There we go.
He's still off the board, I think. Please watch the rest of the show. It's really important
piece of shit over there. Anyway.
Wow, piece of shit feels a little hard.
For two main reasons. One,
was it?
The Knicks gave up not just picks, but also young players as part of this deal. And normally you don't do that unless you have a pretty good indication, like, this guy's going to stay. Here's the more telling thing to me. If OG was going to be an actual free agent this summer and was gettable, there is very little chance he plays in that game 7 in the physical condition that he's in. Like, I respect how competitive he is. I think his teammates certainly appreciated it. If his future earning potential was on the line in game 7, no responsible team around him, no responsible individual person in OG Anunoby is saying, put me on the floor, coach. They are sitting wrapped in ice, maybe in a nice suit on the sideline.
Are you saying his camp?
Good luck, everybody. Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right.
So,
and also, it has to be reminded how close his camp is to Knicks brass. His agent is Leon Rose's son. They probably understand where each side stands.
We come into this show having I'd say a high degree of confidence he will be back in New York. But Ian Begley, who is a great plugged-in reporter in New York, has been covering the Knicks and just covering New York basketball for quite a long time. He's at SNY, comes out with a story today saying, among other things, so he says, thinks it's reasonable to expect Anunoby is going to get $35 million annually on his next contract. Goes on to say, quote, as previously reported, members of the Philadelphia 76ers have seen Anunoby as an offseason target. Paul George is also a target for Philadelphia, but if the Sixers can't get George, I could see them making a big offer to Anunoby. And here's the critical part. If for no other reason than it would force New York to match the money. And so OG Anunoby re-enters the conversation here. Some of this is leverage. Some of this is, he fits in with the Sixers. Also, I don't know how much we discussed this when we talked about OG this year. The Sixers definitely did want to get him. They definitely inquired about him when he was on the block in Toronto. Unlike Pascal Siakam, who we have said many times on this show, was not going to play here and with Nick Nurse again. That there a little bit too much chaos in that relationship. There was real interest in potentially bringing OG in this season. The difference between what the Knicks could offer and what the Sixers could offer is that the Sixers did not have the young players, guys with theoretical upside, to go along with the picks. And so now we're back here heading into the summer. And really the question is, what is the number the Knicks are willing to give OG? And can/will the Sixers exceed that? Where do you think Begley floats the $35 million?
I was going to say that might be the most interesting part of the entire thing.
Yeah.
Because that's, I think, under what most people expect. And he said $35 million annually, not even a starting at $30 million. So that would be starting at like $30 million. That would be an easy yes. I would offer that in a heartbeat.
Unfortunately, if the money's even, you're not getting it.
Well, right, especially because New York can offer 8% raises over 5
rather
years.
than 4 years. Yeah, I think the max that they can offer him is 5 for $245 is the max extension
and
that
the 6 would be somewhere around like $4,200.
Yeah, so you're talking again. That's essentially the same deal that you can offer Paul George. Now, would the Sixers offer a max to Anunoby? I'm more skeptical on that than Paul George because I think they know with Paul George, or I would say they probably feel a reasonable degree of certainty that if you don't give him the max, you can't get him. If the Knicks are hoping for $35 million on Anunoby, there might be a middle ground number in there. Is it 44? Is it 45? Could you go as low as 40? Are the Knicks going to haggle that much over $5 million? And also, here's the more important part. Like, let's say all options are on the table and you can get Anunoby for 40 rather than PG for 50 a year. Is that a meaningful enough difference to go in for a player who I think offensively is a good degree worse than Paul George?
Good degree worse, but I think so. We talked about
offensively anyway. We'll do both sides of it. It's not. Yeah, they're not even close. Yeah, the other direction.
I think a lot of people are going to look at his per game averages, around 15 per game. He is a star defender and a role player on offense, but the key is he's a role player on offense who doesn't get in the way at all. He spaces the floor. He can attack a little bit. He can contribute a little bit on the glass. He doesn't have sort of like that weakness that inhibits you like a lot of defensive role players do, namely the shooting. Over the last 5 or so years, dating back to 2020, he has shot 38.3% on over 1,400 three-point attempts. He has developed into a good reliable shooter. Yes. And if you look at that team with and without him, he made a monster impact on defense. That defensive impact, we've talked about it a lot. If you can get a big wing who can play good perimeter defense, that'll help your rebounding. It also helps you get out on the break, so he helps you in the half court by spacing the floor. He helps you in the transition by getting stops and forcing turnovers and getting rebounds. He would help both sides of the ball. And he's so much young. What is he, 26, 27, somewhere in that range? He will
turn 27 in mid-July. So you'll have him for his 27, 28, 29, and age 30 seasons.
He's a little bit like split. I hate this phrase. Why do people say it? It's a little bit like splitting the baby, where you get immediate help now at a position you need and in a role you need, while also being young enough to have a long runway. I would have him over a lot of people. I don't know exactly where that is, but if you're talking in the $35 to $40 million range, that is also $9 to $14 million less than Paul George, less than Jimmy Butler, When you add another $14 million to what the Sixers can do, all of a sudden you can do both. You can get, OG Anunoby at, say, 35 to 40, and you can go out and get another starter level on top of that, and then use that room mid-level. Like, you get a lot more flexibility than you would with one of these stars. He would be pretty high on my list. Would I have concern over giving him a $40+ million contract? Yeah, of course. All of these big dollar contracts, especially with the double apron era that we're in, are going to be concerning. But it does leave you with significantly more flexibility, and he's a piece that should be a good fit now and be a good fit for the remainder of that contract.
And then you also add the back to the basket thing,
one of the
too.
major differences between now and when we were talking about this in December, you're not giving up first-round picks.
Right. It's just the same case we've made for Paul George, right? Which is you're only using cap space to get him. And that opens up other avenues for, hey, we still have these 4 first-round picks. We can move them for a Caruso. We can move them for a shot creator. We can move them for whatever it might be. It's
way less risky now than it was 6 months ago. And also, now that you have $20 to $25 million in salary cap space left over, those draft picks that now you don't have to spend to get OG, you can now use that credibly in trades to take back salary. You have so many more options. This is appealing to me, yes.
And just adding to the offensive point where he can play with his back to the basket too, because he is physical, play against even some people that are his size, but in terms of height, physicality, though, he can run right through them with what he does, and he doesn't do things that he typically can't do to hurt your team. My issue, though, and I know we were going to get to this because we talked about this just a bit, is the record that he had with the Knicks when he first got there, when we saw some number like 23-2 that he had. They were just winning and blowing teams out and destroying them, and he was fantastic on the floor. Then he wasn't. Then it was no longer 23-2 because it stayed at 23-2. Because he then missed another month for an injury that he sustained. And when he got back, he also got hurt once again during the postseason. And part of that maybe is because of what Thibodeau does in running his players into the ground. But it's also something that he has dealt with since, as we talked about, high school, through college, and now in the NBA, where you have to factor that in what you want to discuss when you're talking about the contract that you want to offer him, because that is a big piece of it when it comes to that player.
And I see a lot of people in the chat mentioning his injury history. Show me the 27-year-old star defending way you can shoot 40% from 3 and doesn't get injured and is available. There's a reason players become available. It's because they have faults. Mm-hmm. Whether it's going to be
Derek
age.
is slowly moving to the corner I was on like 2 months ago, which is like, you have to make a decision on someone. You have to take risk on in some way. It might be age, it might be years, it might be money, it might be health. Somewhere there is going to be a risk.
100%. And we hemmed and hawed a lot in the lead up to the trade deadline. That's 2 reasons. One, I like to point out the what is appealing and what is concerning to help maybe the listeners and viewers make a more informed decision. I think that's more important than necessarily what my own individual opinion is, but also more directly, that was at a trade deadline when we knew we had this second window. We knew we had a free agency and a draft period where you can either sign a player or trade a player. So you were going to be a little more selective because of that. Like I said, him not having to give up picks for him now materially changes what we're talking about. It changes the discussion in a big way. So yeah, if you can show me that perfect player who the Sixers can sign or trade for, I'm all ears. Unfortunately, he's not available right now.
The only problem with the injury part where you say show that perfect player, when your best player also has the injury history that we does, and we continue to talk about, can you just please have one healthy run of Joel Embiid in the playoffs, and then you go throw $40 million at a guy to come in to be that other person that you hope to be healthy with Joel Embiid on the floor. That's a knock for the fan base when the guy that you always want to see healthy, and now you go spring this money for another player that can come in 100%. And still be healthy. So it goes both ways with that, it may not be the perfect. This offseason is not perfect anyway. Sure, there were names there. Siakam, OG Anunoby, Paul George, Jimmy Butler, all these names that were going to be in the very beginning of the season potentially there. The problem is now, though, you have to find that person. Whoever it might be, you have to spend the money. You have to make that trade. The issue, though, is that when you do that, that perfect player might also have that flaw. And in this case, it's not the shooting or something else on the floor. It's, no, that guy might not be available the same way your MVP guy might not be available. So should we allocate this money to this player instead of going in a different direction? Whatever they do, whoever they sign or trade for, it's going to be picked apart. And that's why we're doing it now. It's going to be picked apart. It's just a matter of what you're willing to accept with whatever flaw it may be, age, money, injury, whatever that flaw is, someone is going to have it. Someone.
Yes. Look, we're gonna go in circles on.
It's like podcast hosts. You can't expect me to know numbers and be entertaining and have personality. It's not gonna happen. So you got to pick the flaw that you're willing to live
yourself
with.
short.
Here's
there,
the thing
Come on.
that maybe this is gonna be some tough love for the people in the chat and Sixers fans in general. Who do you think your team is? You do not have I want to give you another example. In 2016, the Warriors have the greatest regular season in the history of basketball. They lose in 7 games in awful fashion, big choke job to the Cavs. LeBron and Kyrie have their all-time moment. And after being that level of good, they're able to say to Kevin Durant, hey, listen, we have this unique opportunity with the cap spike. You want to win a ring. Steph will step aside and let you be the featured player. We don't care about the individual accolades, all that. We're about winning, blah, blah, blah. And that's how you get a guy at the peak of his powers who can come in, be your finals MVP, sign him outright in free agency. Everything that you guys do, that we criticize the Sixers, they haven't done this. They haven't gotten out of the second round. They haven't drafted correctly. They haven't traded for the right players. Do you guys think that NBA players and their agents don't recognize this? And do you think when the guys at the tippy top of the market have their say of here's where I'm going to spend the next 4 or 5 years of my career, that you, as the Philadelphia 76ers, can look at them and play hardball? Fuck no. You don't have that luxury. I would love to live in a world where the Sixers have won titles and we can be like, oh yeah, LeBron, we don't need that guy. He better take a discount to come play in Philadelphia. Or Paul George, you might get 3 for $90, but forget about that max contract, buddy. They don't have that luxury. They don't have the draw. You have to sell people on coming here because they need to push you over the top, not the other way around. You are not coming here and winning an automatic ring. This is not something that's just like, hey, look, Joel Embiid, repeated playoff winner, guys carry teams to titles. You can just fill in whoever. You are the people, you are the team, you are the group that has to take the risk. And some of you just simply need to accept that. I think there are delusions of grandeur. Hey, we have this proud history of the 76ers. They had Wilt Chamberlain. They had Julius and Moses Malone back in the day. That should always be the case. Guess what?
Julius ain't walking through that. He might because he's still connected to the organization, but he's not playing.
God rest his soul, is not walking through that door. You are not getting an in his prime MVP to just switch sides and sign up for your team. So I get it. You are welcome to your opinions, your pushback. I don't want this guy. I'm scared of OG Anunoby's health history. I'm scared of paying Paul George $50 million when he's 37 years old. Whatever. I don't want to trade 3 first-round picks for Jimmy Butler and then pay him on top of that. I don't want to move 4, 5 draft assets for Mikal Bridges when I don't know if he can be third man on a title team, depending on what else is going on. You can make any argument you want. I just want you to understand the Sixers are not the people with the leverage, except for when it comes to acquiring guys who are on contracts their current teams do not want.
I got to work on working with Kyle makes me realize I got to work on my hand waving. I don't talk with my hands enough. And Kyle does this.
I've been told I'm an honorary Italian for all the hand talking.
You see what the Sixers have done to you people? Look at this, right? 7-8 years of the postseason and no second round advancement. And this is what we've come to. And we've gotten to Ben Simmons and what he didn't do and the Markelle Fultz piece and how that didn't work. Jimmy Butler leaving, all that stuff. Look at where we are. Look at where we are.
Listen, I truly feel fun to talk about. I understand everyone's frustration. Like I said, I wish this was a team coming off 73 wins that could go to the reigning MVP and be like, hey, come to death row. We'll get you a title. But
unfortunately,
that's not them.
they're smoothing the cap this time, and that's not a possibility.
So
Interesting.
But listen, the future is bright for some people.
It is very bright.
And if you need to protect yourself from the sun this summer, boy, do I have a friend to talk to you about. Our good friends at Shady Rays.
I need some of those shades,
Maybe if you're looking at this bright yellow shirt I have on, you need to just put some sunglasses on. Well, Shady Rays has the sunglasses for you. Get ready for the season ahead with quality shades that are built to last. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people because of their durable frames, crystal clear optics. They are the perfect choice for all outdoor adventures. As you guys saw when I ranted about Denver fans earlier this week, I wear my Shady Rays quite often. I'll wear them on the show. I'll wear them in the car. Going to the beach at least one of the next 2 weekends, maybe for crazy Memorial Day this weekend. We'll see. I don't always like to be at the crowded beaches. You go when it's a little quieter. But I will have my Shady Rays with me. They're great. They keep the sun out of your eyes. You look. I won't say you probably look good. I look okay, but you will look good in your Shady Rays. And look,
someone's confident in himself.
I said okay. Jesus,
looks great.
Listen,
looks great.
If you don't like them, or if the shades go missing, or if they take an unexpected hit, you don't have to sweat it. They have the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair is backed by lost or broken replacements. And if you don't love your shades, exchange them for a new pair or return them worry-free within 30 days. There is no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back with personal and fast support. So exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out the best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code PHLY for 35% off of your polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
We also want to make sure we tell you about Rite Aid and about vaccinations. Protect yourself and your family by staying up to date on your immunizations. Rite Aid pharmacists are specially trained, certified immunizers. Did you know that most vaccines are no cost with insurance or through government plans like Medicare Part D? Rite Aid pharmacists can vaccinate for COVID-19, shingles, which is a painful rash caused by the same virus that causes chickenpox, RSV, a highly contagious seasonal virus that infects the respiratory tract, pneumonia, tetanus, whooping cough, chickenpox, and more.
No chickenpox. You don't want those.
You don't. Absolutely do not.
No.
Select Rite Aid stores have a dedicated pharmacist ready to administer vaccines and answer all of your questions. If you have questions on what immunizations you need, if you're not sure if you're up to date, or if you're feeling nervous to ask questions, a Rite Aid pharmacist will take the time to make personalized recommendations based on your health history and discuss any concerns. No questions are too small. Just walk in or schedule an appointment Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. State, age, and health restrictions may apply. Ask a Rite Aid pharmacist for details.
All right, so you build out the roster there, the starting 5 with OG Anunoby included. He's just in the mix with Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey. Derek, when you look at the money-wise, what do you now, stylistically, personnel-wise, what grouping would you like to have on the floor with OG Anunoby, Maxey? There's still a hole in the backcourt, and that other forward spot in the front court. What type of players would you be looking at if OG Anunoby was in the lineup with those two?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think if you get OG, like you have a super versatile defender, you don't want to then, handcuff yourself by going, all right, well, we don't need versatile defenders elsewhere. Like it's always, what bozo can you pick on? You would prefer to have no bozos, as we always talk about when discussing the Celtics.
No clowns. That's an important roster building tenet. No clowns.
So I don't I think the
Maybe
natural
Pennywise.
inclination some people would be, all right, well, we got defense covered. Defense isn't covered by one or two people. It's covered by a team. So I still want size on the perimeter, size next to Maxey. But you would really prioritize having somebody who can have some kind of creation ability. Because that's the one thing that when you're talking about a big investment piece in OG, that's not his strong suit. That's not going to be his strong suit. His utility on offense is getting out on the break or is spacing the floor. You still need some kind of a creator to pair with him. So that would be the next priority.
Is that more the backcourt you prefer?
I mean, it depends on
preferably.
Honestly, preferably, like if it's a wing, that's fine too.
If you can get a wing creator, I think it's almost always better to get one, but it's much harder to get.
Those guys are usually way more expensive and tougher to acquire.
Right. Yeah.
I do think OG, we did the show last week on Aaron Gordon types. He doesn't fit in the sense that he's never been and never should be asked to be like a number one guy that would be transitioning to a role player. he's just slotting into, okay, that's your third guy, and he will do, the tough work. Now, he actually hasn't historically been a great rebounder. I think he had some moments in the playoffs where obviously you can see the physical tools and his ability to beat up on smaller guys, like going over the top of people like Kyle Lowry and so on and so forth. But he's only like a 4 rebound a game guy for his career.
Yep.
So some of that could be who he's playing with, how he's positioned, like to use him more as a full-time 4 next to Joel Embiid rather than as I think he's played most of his minutes as a 3 throughout his career, and you know how that changes where you're positioned on the floor. But also some of it is he is so focused on you're on the top assignment no matter where they are on the floor that he's contesting all these shots and in these individual battles more often. So maybe you could get him to be a bigger or a more impactful rebounder if he doesn't have to do all the work as a defensive guy. I just think that that's his best skill, as Derek laid out earlier. Like, he is legitimately a game-changing defender. He's one of the few guys in this, and we saw it in round 1. He's one of the few guys in the league where you say he can switch 1 through 5, and I think it's actually true. Because most guys, you say that, and it's like maybe you get 1 to 4 in most cases, 1 to 3 or 2 through 4. Right. You're not defending all 5s. Meanwhile,
and
OG is on an island against Joel Embiid in round 1. Now they're sending lots of help, but he's an incredible defender. My concerns, and Derek touched on it, was saying what you need next to him are the creative stuff. Like, I think OG is a guy who ends up settling for mid-range pull-ups more often than I think he should, just because he doesn't really have the ability to get by guys as often as he should. Maybe Joel Embiid changes that because of the gravity he has as a pick and pop guy, even a pick and roll guy. You're so worried about tracking him that OG can get some freebies. But yeah, look, I think if you were able to get him, he'd be great. I don't think that it's not realistic or reasonable to expect him to get away for what we laid out up top.
No. And even if he did, though, and he came here, it would be interesting. It's the same reason why we talked about him as much as we did during the trade deadline and discussed it once he went to the Knicks. He's that good. He's that good where you worry enough about him being in the Atlantic Division with the opponent that he is with the New York Knicks because of the player that he is. And that's why you have to talk about him the way that he is discussed, because he's that good. When you discuss star players and superstar players and all, that guy's a star on defense, as Derek said. And while he wasn't on one of the All-NBA defensive teams named yesterday, that was because of games played. He would have been on one of those 2 teams had he played the amount of games necessary to qualify to be on that squad. That's how good he is defensively. All of that stuff, the concerns about the injury and everything else that comes with it, he will make up with it. When we talk about, that guy doesn't bust his tail enough to go dive on the floor for that loose ball, or that 50-50 ball is right there in front of your face. He doesn't snatch the boards off the glass. But what he will do is he will be in the vicinity. He will hustle for those plays. He makes those hustle and those winning plays to make it happen. And that stuff is, you pay for that. And that's what you're going to get from a player like that. If you can, after that, that's going to be up to Daryl Morey to figure out how to put those other necessary players around him. The shot creator, is it going to be someone like Kelly Oubre? Maybe fits best now that you have someone like OG Anunoby in that starting lineup, and then you fill that 5th spot with someone else. He would be on the list, of course, of all the names that we have talked about. Didn't expect it, like we said at the very top, just because once they do it, I agree with Derek that it's still unexpected, but I did not think we would even be having this conversation when the report jumps out like that. But that's the nature of the offseason. That's the nature of them putting that information out there to make sure that they get that money that they want from New York, too. We talked about it yesterday. The Sixers being played when it comes to, not played, sorry, discussed with Paul George just to make leverage to have something happen with Paul George to stand there. Same here with the OG Anunoby piece, just a little bit.
I'm trying to imagine Leon Rose's son talking to Ian Begley on the phone, like, yo, my dad's really fucking me in this negotiation. Like, can you just float some numbers out there and be like, hey,
$35 million.
Hey, listen, the Sixers are still interested. My dad better pony the fuck up.
Well, if you're going to look for some odds and you want to make sure if he's on your team next season and you say, oh, let me look at the line. OG Anunoby is playing for Philadelphia and you want to place a wager on his line that particular night against, let's just say New York in that case, you got to go to our great friends at Bet Parks. And with Bet Parks, our show today is brought to you by our good friends here at Bet Parks. And with Bet Parks, they make it very, very easy for you to get out there and make some money and place your wagers the way you want to. You get in the zone with Bet Parks Sportsbook app like I do right here on my phone. Money is in the moment. And in the moment, Philadelphia, I keep bringing this up because they're so good right now. They are very, very good. They're playing some really good baseball right now. They're playing Texas, the defending champs, and they took care of business last night. They're looking to do so again tonight. The pitcher right now is 9-0 after last night's victory, probably at the top of the Cy Young. Derek is shaking his head because he's like, that guy's good, man.
And just
the
like
lefty is good.
A while, like biggest fan in the world did not see this coming.
Never saw this. I would talk to Tyler Zulli on the PHLY Philly show, producer there, and say, what? He's not going to be that good. Years ago. Yeah, he's that good. Well, he won last night. They're trying to keep it going tonight, and they are the favorite right now at -122 at home against Texas. Once again, if you want to jump on in there and place a wager at the Bet Parks Sportsbook app to get some place a wager, put some money down there. Maybe you want to figure out some home run situations there. Maybe you look at Bryce Harper. Yes, +265. No, -360. Well, it's warming up outside. And I would say that's a pretty good bet for Bryce Harper, who is seeing the ball very well for Philadelphia. Make sure you go to Bet Park Sportsbook app. And don't forget about basketball tonight. Dallas taking on Minnesota in Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals in the association. Who do you have right now? -4.5 home favorite for Minnesota. I'm putting money on that because the young superstar that they have is going to get them a Game 1 victory at home to start off things in the Western Conference Finals. If you feel like I do and you want to win big with all-day action, you can win your first $10 bet and earn $125 in sports bonus bets. You play for fun. You love to win. You bet. Download the app. Play along with us. Must be 21 or older. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Did you see, speaking of Ant-Man and the Minnesota Timberwolves, that the governor of Minnesota declared it Wolves Back Day? And in the declaration letter, the first letter of every paragraph spelled out "bring your ass" after Anthony Edwards said that.
That's creative to Charles Barkley.
So they are they're really getting into it in Minnesota and the Twin Cities.
They
Happy
really
for
should.
them.
They really should. These are the type of discussions you can have, and if I ever join, in the Discord with our diehard membership. If you want to check in with all of our great folks here at PHLY Sports, not just this show, you can get into the diehard program, get the stories written. Of course, with everything going on with the off season, you want to know about the numbers and things. Derek has some great stuff that will be there for you. Kyle,
we'll be talking about the draft very soon. The draft
profile for players. And of course, right now with OTAs going on, you got Zach and Bo writing their stories there, Charlie and writing everything for the Flyers because of the Russian maybe coming back. Maybe getting over here sooner rather than later. And if that's the case, if you want to read
watch
those
a hockey
stories,
game,
you might go. Right? You might go. Become a diehard member and join our program here, the community that we're building. It's a lot of fun. We hope you enjoy what we've done. And if you're curious, again, make sure you sign up for that diehard program. You can get some T-shirts and some hats, 20% off there. Become a member and jump on in. We also had the Phillies where they had their tailgate this past weekend. It was raining, but so many people still showed up. So imagine what can be done on a sunny day with the best baseball team in professional sports right now, professional baseball. You want to go out there and do that. So make sure you join all of us for all of our things that we have going on here at PHLY Sports and jump on in. We got a golf outing happening.
Oh, yeah. Was that July?
Yeah, July 13th at Valley Brook Country Club. We got that happening. Got the scramble going on there. Jaws has great courses. This is a fantastic one. So sign up there. Got to be a member. Jump on in. Ooh. So go ahead and do that. Jump on in.
So to put a bookend, Put a bow on it. I don't know why. My brain today.
Buddy, we talk a lot, man.
I don't
Every
know.
now and then it just shuts off, and you still got to try to
Maybe no more cream soda Olipop. I don't know. I got to stick to the tried and true flavor.
Don't blame that on Olipop.
I'm
Come
enjoying
on now,
the cream
own it.
soda. Just to be clear. To put a bow on this, I feel like I've been having the same debate with people in the chat, on Twitter, everywhere else in my life, every single day, that nobody wants the 34, 35-year-old aging star at max money. I understand that. And then you counter with, well, good role players are going to cost $25 million. Well, nobody said anything about role players. And then it's like, okay, well, then you got to pay OG Anunoby $40+ million. Well, I don't know if I want to do that. He's hurt. It's at the end of the day, you got to make a choice at some point. It feels
You can't punt this and be like, well, we'll try to have cap space next year.
We're going to sign a bunch of expiring contracts. Right, you have to try to compete now. And I understand. I wish that they could thread the needle. I wish we could reverse time and go back to when Joel Embiid was, 24, 25 years old. Have the Sixers not trade for Tobias Harris, keep all the stuff that they had, not trade Mikal Bridges for Zaire Smith, and have that completely fall apart and blow up on them. You're in the position that you're in. All you can do at this point is try to pick from the best options that you have. It's the only thing that you can do.
And look, I think some people saying go the role player route. I think they are a little bit unrealistic in how much you can expect to fill out a roster with, even $65 million in cap space.
Yeah.
Like, you might end up taking 3 swings at players with that money. Even if you connect on all 3, you only have realistically a 5-man roster. And by the way, connecting on like 3 $20 million contracts, it's not nearly as likely as people expect. I think if you do that, you have one player who's probably going to be a mainstay, one player who's maybe not great, but is at least contributing, and one player that you miss on. That's probably the reality of the probabilities there. It's going to be risky as well. The cap space plan is a lot more appealing when you're talking about a team like Kyle brought up. If Embiid was 25 and Maxey was just coming into his own and you had a long runway, because you're then just trying to get a foundation and another cornerstone to pair with them, because the reality is trying to build out depth in one offseason is going to be borderline impossible, regardless of whether you go the role player route or the third star route. It's going to be really, really tough. Daryl Morey has not one key decision to make. He has 3 or 4, and then he has a bunch of smaller decisions around the margins on minimum deals that he's going to need to be successful on as well. This is a tough thing to pull off, because you do have such a short runway. Because this year, if you're talking about Joel Embiid's prime, this year is one of 3 years that you're really targeting. You have to expedite almost everything about this. But I think it would be unrealistic to say, well, you can't invest this because you need 5 different role players to fill out a rotation. You're just not hitting on 5 different guys at like $10 million a year. It's not likely to happen.
The problem with that for the fan base, though, when they look at it, is that they see these other teams, while you don't have to build it the exact same way, they see the 2 stars and then they see the others. They see Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic, where's the 3rd star? They see Indiana right now, you have 2 all-stars in Pascal Siakam and Tyrese Halliburton. Where's the 3rd star? You can say maybe Miles Turner.
While you're on the Dallas point, Dallas is a great example of you're going to have to take a risk.
Yes.
They had the A1 superstar, right? Like, Luka's been a MVP candidate for the last several years. And when they traded for Kyrie Irving, they got him at the absolute bottom of his value. Now, that wasn't really about basketball, right? It was about the off court, and you could extrapolate that into decision making and what have you. But they took a risk. They said his talent is enough for us to bet on the basketball fit between these two and what they can do.
And that wasn't just an easy fit either.
There was a lot of concern about how those guys would play together.
Yes.
And there's a lot of skeptics about Kyrie too, about whether or not he can fit next to a ball dominant player, about whether or not he can contribute defensively. There were skeptics across the world about him.
Yeah, but again, just the point of it is, though, that people see that and they see that example of why can't it be done here? Why can it not happen here? You've had Jimmy Butler, you've had James Harden with Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid. Now, while Maxey wasn't an all-star last year, you saw it. You saw he was a 20-point scorer. That's your 3. Okay, you lose 1. Do you still need that? Because we've seen it. It was a different type, because that was the ball-dominant James Harden player that you don't need that. But can you still get it done without that third star? And that's why the conversation comes into play, because these other teams are having that success. Indiana's a bit lucky in a sense because of the injury that New York had, and maybe
they played well.
They did play well.
They got lucky.
Let's be real
Yeah.
here, and I don't want to step on what they've accomplished, because they've accomplished more than the Sixers ever have. Do we still think they're like legit, like top 5 team contenders?
No, I don't.
I think you're aiming higher than that. That doesn't mean you'll get higher than that. It just means you're aiming higher than that.
But it doesn't mean that people won't feel like you can duplicate that with 2 stars and with the money that you have available to you to go out there and fill out those role rosters, role players.
So the 2 stars and role players route, I think that might be realistic if you had a longer window. Like I said, if you had multiple years to sort of collect these role players. Now look, Dallas did it quickly. Like they got 2 players that were key, three real key players in short order. We just brought up Denver the other day, though, where they tried the same thing and they swung and missed. And because of that, they didn't have the depth they needed to compete. There's a little bit of survivorship bias where I think that influences how likely you think it is to go that route.
The other part of the gamble with the Kyrie piece is then giving him 3 years and $150 million on the back end in the offseason.
Yeah.
They said, okay, we saw enough.
We'll deal with it.
We'll deal with the
risk.
And then following it up with the PJ Washington deal that no one knew coming out of Charlotte. You knew he was a good player, but how was he going to work? And it has worked.
And here's the other thing. Like, if you want to do the 2 stars route, Tyrese Maxey has to be at the Kyrie level, not just in the regular season, in the playoffs. And he had moments, right? Mm-hmm. Saved them in Game 5. Had what was overall a great series. Game 6, fell flat on his face, played bad. And that's the reason that they went home. And, everyone's pointing fingers at, well, it's Tobias Harris and it's this guy. And yes, Tobias Harris was awful as a big reason why they didn't win that series. It's also because your second star is not quite good enough yet. Your first star, not quite good enough. Are there reasons for that? Whether they're youth, whether they're injuries, fit with the rest of the roster? Sure. My point throughout all of this is just that to get any good player is going to be expensive. It does not have to be a big name guy. Last season, and these numbers will go up next year. Last season, 75 guys made at least $20 million in the NBA.
Right.
That's like 17% of the league is making $20 million or more. And that's, by the way, Tyrese Maxey will join that club when he signs his extension. So to get good players, in that group, right? We're talking about someone like Bruce Brown. Now, Bruce Brown got a much bigger deal than people anticipated coming off of the title run. But that's sometimes what it costs to lure a real guy to a different situation. You got to pay $20 to $25 million for a role player. Kyle Kuzma, playing on a dog shit team, is making $25+ million this season. Cam Johnson, 25.6. Tyler Hero, $27 million. And these guys are not like, I'm winning a title with this guy. This guy's the missing piece. They're good NBA players. But so if you don't do, and it's again, I know we keep hyperfixating on like Paul George specifically because he's connected to them. Not wanting Paul George is completely reasonable for reasons that we've laid out over and over again. But once you get into the alternatives, you're probably not getting Paul George or Jimmy Butler or that type of player impact from spending $25 million on Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and $22 million on Malik Monk. Like, you're not getting the same level of impact. You just aren't. That's not how the NBA works. So I have equal reservation about the role player route as I do paying Paul George. And that is the problem in front of Daryl Morey this offseason. There is no magic bullet. There is no sign on the dotted line right now. I'll take it and I'll feel good about it. I won't lose any sleep for the next 4 years. Every door that you open, there is a trap door waiting somewhere. Even like we've talked about Mikal. Mikal, perfect fit, right age, right demeanor, skill set, all that. You have to unload probably every pick that you have in order to make that deal happen. And so then if Tyrese, Mikal, Joel does not work, you have nothing. You are boxed in. You have nothing but that group and what you can do along the margins. And Derek brought up Denver. You end up in a similar position as Denver, where if you don't absolutely nail every margin decision, you're going to lose coin flip games and you can lose coin flip series. And we're right back here like we are every year talking about, well, what the hell did they do to go somewhere from here?
Derek, a lot of people throwing in here real fast before we get to our next points. Jeremy Grant and Malcolm Brogdon from Portland. Fit-wise, your thoughts? What would that take if they tried to do something like that? Jeremy Grant just signed that extension last summer.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on the fit? Where would that role be? Would Brogdon be a starter? Is he coming off the bench?
So is this in addition to, or is this in a scenario where they get OG or they don't?
I think most people are saying get those two instead of OG.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, it depends a little bit on what Portland wants.
Mm-hmm.
I do worry a little bit about Brogdon and his defense and the fact that
and his health,
teams
by
and
the
his
way.
health,
Yep.
and that teams don't necessarily seem like they're always all that eager to keep him around.
Sure.
I would have
I've
to
said
do a
on the
little
show
more.
the president nickname is
Right.
sarcastic as much as anything.
And I've mentioned before that Grant, I just don't like how he views himself, and I don't like putting the ball in the hands of a player who cannot pass well as often as he's going to want.
Isn't a great rebounder for
That's-
the tools that he has either.
And honestly, he's taken a step back defensively while his contract is escalating. I just don't like a high usage shot creator, or at least a scorer, who has very little in terms of creation. And I'd have to see the other options. That would not be all that appealing to me. Just getting two players that I'm not enamored with doesn't necessarily mean I love the depth.
Yeah.
More people, but
Yeah.
Look, I think Jeremy, the difference between Jeremy and OG, first of all, OG I think is a much better defender at this stage. I think he's always been better than Grant, but I think especially now, like, he buys into the role he is suited for, whereas I don't have the same trust in Jeremy, and he's a much more versatile defender than Jeremy, and he's not going to require the ball as much as Jeremy. I think OG is a much better option, and like you mentioned, there's injury concerns with Brogdon in a big way.
Yep. All right. There you go. Interesting.
Yeah,
OG
listen, I think
Anunoby.
it's a moot point. OG is re-signing in New York, or he's signing with New York.
Yeah. It's fun.
You yelled at me. You called me an
fun
asshole
conversation.
when I
now
said
we're
that.
47 plus minutes into the show, so I can
We did our
say
job.
what I think.
We did
Yeah,
our
it's like, I
job.
wait until I go through all the things and say he's not leaving New York.
not leaving New York.
I don't see how it happens.
All right. Well, talking about players fitting with Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey won the Sportsmanship Award, Sportsmanship of the Year Award in the NBA, and he also won the most improved player of the year award as well. Tonight, they're announcing the All-NBA teams. We've already seen the All-NBA defense yesterday, the rookie teams, and everything is done. This is the one, of course, that we've all been waiting for. With no Joel Embiid, as far as his health, and not getting to the games number that they want with 65, the only hope that you have for your 76ers is Tyrese Maxey maybe making one of these All-NBA squads, top 15 player in the NBA. So I ask my partners here, what do they think his chances are? Who pushes him out in the event that he does not make it? Joel Embiid not making it, does that help? Because it creates a space with some of these other names that have not hit the qualifying number. Does that create an opportunity for him to sneak in there? And as a result, we know that while he's 4 for 200 million, is
I think
it?
it's like 4 for 204.
4 for
something
204.
like that. Yeah.
And then if he, of course,
And then
hits the
it'll be
All-NBA,
4 for 247.
247.
So he's got 40 plus million reasons to be invested in what happens
yes.
tonight.
So
yeah.
I saw you jumping in there. Your thoughts first.
Well, again, just to sort of lay that out, if he makes All NBA, he's eligible for a 5-year contract that starts at, or let's start off with, if he doesn't, what he's eligible for right now would be a 5-year, around $204 million contract, starts at $35.5 million. If he makes All NBA, that jumps up to a starting salary of $42.6 million, and like I said, about $40 million more over the course of that contract. A key point in that is that does not impact in any way what the Sixers can do this summer. He has a cap hold of $13 million coming into the summer. That will be what his cap hold is until he signs that new contract. So in the order of operations, the Sixers will make the moves they need to make with that cap space, whether that's signing a player or whether that is making a trade. And then once all of that is done, they will sign they will start negotiations and sign Tyrese Maxey to that massive extension, and then that's when that new cap hit number will take hold. That doesn't mean it doesn't have an impact. It does in future seasons when we start talking about both luxury tax, which the Sixers have over the years at times paid, at times tried to avoid, and also the second apron. Like if his contract is $7 to $8 million more, that will impact the flexibility they have under that second apron, but it will not impact the moves they can make this summer. In terms of his chances, I think he's right on the edge. I think he is right on the edge. I think the time he spent without Joel Embiid hurts him a little bit because the Sixers weren't winning games. Probably weren't all that many people watching him. He was struggling at times to be that lead guard. I think it's probably good for his development, but hurts his chances of all NBA. The plus side of that is some players who might have been eligible didn't play enough games. Other players like Halliburton struggled for a couple months there. Again, a lot of this voting would have happened before this playoff run. So the Halliburton resurgence here, and in fact he's playing in the conference finals, won't impact that. I think he's going to be right on the edge. I think
he's certainly a fringe guy.
Yeah, I think what's going to be interesting is do you reward Phoenix and give them 2 All-NBA? Do you give both Durant and Booker? I'm not sure I could. They just weren't a good enough team to do that, but that's something like that could be what happens in Sacramento, like Sabonis, Fox. Do both of them make it? I think that's where you look.
My guess is Sabonis probably does and not Fox.
I would go, if I was voting, that's the way I would go too. And also then the Clippers. Can you give
both
Kawhi and Paul George?
And then the positionless
and
part
I think Kawhi made he's eligible by 3 games or so. It's what, 65 game minimum?
65.
Yeah.
And I think he played 68, so that hurts Maxey's chances too.
So if we just go through,
I think you have to have Kawhi on there. He was good enough.
There are 5 or 6 that are very easy. Jokic, Giannis, Luka, Brunson, SGA, Tatum, KD. Mm-hmm. And then after that is where it gets interesting. I think it'll probably be Anthony Edwards, probably Kawhi.
Yep.
Steph Curry's an interesting one to me. How much does he get dinged for where the team is at? I think he still probably makes it
too.
Yeah. So that's 10.
Anthony Davis?
Yeah. Him and LeBron are probably making it. So that puts you at 12. Then it's you're in that Sabonis, Booker, Maxey, Halliburton.
Did you say Brunson?
I did. He was one of my first
6. Yep.
Mitchell. Did Mitchell qualify?
I don't think so.
I don't think
because
he
actually got a lot of the end games.
I think he missed by 2
he's
games.
ineligible.
Yeah, he's ineligible.
Okay, so that helps him a little bit. Yeah, maybe the Celtics are able to get Jaylen Brown in there too, or if people really want to be hipsters and say it's Porzingis.
I say Brown.
Only 55. Okay.
Yeah, so I think
it's 3 spots.
There's 3 spots, and I think he's one of the, let's say,
6 or
5
so,
guys who's probably in the mix there. If he gets it, I think he earned it. If he doesn't, as long as it's one of these guys that's in that general range, I don't think there's going to be, at least on my end, there won't be a lot of consternation. The Sixers will probably very quietly pump a few fists and that helps the future cap. Obviously not rooting against Tyrese, but it is what it is. I think he's going to make it, if I had to guess, but I don't feel strongly one way or another.
Pandering Kyle over here.
No, I just think if you go down the list, once you get past that 10 to 12 guys, there's nobody based on the regular season that's oh yeah, he was head and shoulders better.
It's
than
really going to come
Tyrese.
down to how many of these disappointing teams that have 2 stars are you going to reward? I don't know, but I would agree with you. I think he probably has a better than 50% chance of making it, but I think it's close. It probably wouldn't be more than 55 or 60% chance.
And the LA Lakers, disappointing.
Yep.
2 stars. Clippers, of course, 2. You said
Suns.
Sacramento, Suns.
Yep.
That's 4 teams right there. Yeah, where you could get squeezed out. Our buddy here in the chat, you better love somebody. We love loving somebody. Maxey, love you, boy, but we can't afford for you to make all NBA.
It really is a weird.
Daryl, is that you?
Ramiz says Paolo from Orlando. Not yet. He's a little bit down that list as far as Paolo.
I have to look at his. Although, he's the best guy on a surprise playoff team, and maybe not a surprise playoff team, but a team that was better than I think people expect. Yeah, he'll get some consideration. I don't think he'll get there though. Again, to your point, I think it's too soon. I think normally this level of award is normally reserved for guys who are all right. You're an established guy, and he's not quite there yet.
All right. Did you guys have votes?
No.
All right. Who's your
Nor
first,
do I want one, by the way.
Who's your first
If
team?
anyone from the NBA is watching, don't want
I
one.
mean, I think the first team is just the MVP guys.
Yeah. And especially, reminder, this year it is positionless, so
Yeah.
you don't have to be like, this
See,
guy
man,
has
see
guard
how- see how they
eligibility,
don't
all that
listen?
stuff.
See?
Jokic.
Said that like 5 times. He
Jokic,
didn't, he
I'm
just
just
said it.
SGA.
reminding people
He
because
just
we're a
doesn't
listening
listen.
team.
He just doesn't listen. I don't
Jokic,
know.
SGA, Luka, Giannis. I get the 5th spot is the only interesting one.
think it's
I
Tatum.
think with hindsight, you
think it's
might say
Tatum.
Brunson, but I
Brunson?
don't think that's how I voted. And I think I might have said Kawhi.
I had Brunson 6 on my MVP ballot.
I
so
think
yeah.
Tatum because of the best record.
I could see that too because I historically have been a big like reward the guys on the best teams person. So
That's your 5?
I mean, I did submit for the straw poll for the Tim Bontemp straw poll, and it was SGA. Well, it was Jokic, SGA, Luka, Giannis, and Tatum was my 5 in that order.
I agree with them.
Phil
That's
says
the
I
5.
love counting people's money. No, that's my job. I have to understand what guys make
Right.
and how it impacts how the team builds. If there was no salary cap, I love all these guys to make fucking generational wealth, and they all basically are anyway.
I am way
but
more pro athlete than I am Josh Harris. So
listen.
yes, get that bag, 100%. But it doesn't
I would
impact
be,
the team, and
I
we
would
have to
be
talk about how it impacts
thrilled
them.
for Tyrese if he gets all NBA.
100%.
I'll tell you that.
So would he. 40 plus more million in his pocket if he makes the all NBA
He'll be
squad.
okay though. He'll scrape by.
He'll be
without
fine.
it.
He'll be fine.
He'll.
Phil's been
I'll
yelling
be
at us
asking
anyway during the
Tyrese
show.
if I can borrow a couple nickels. How about that?
He's doing well for himself. What else does he have outside of New Balance?
He's doing. Didn't he have what did they rebrand Sierra Mist as?
Oh, the commercial,
Starry or whatever it is.
yeah.
Yeah, he did that.
Yeah. What else?
I've never
still
been
does-
I'm not a lemon lime soda
Does he
guy.
still do the insurance commercials?
Yes. So he has the
Oh,
local.
was that Cure? I think?
Yeah. So
He's got
doing
some
all
local
right.
stuff, some national stuff.
He's doing all
I think
right.
after this season, he'll probably get some more.
Yeah, and his personality is such is so good that he'll be fine. Davon, aka Schoolboy Beach, jumps in. Convinced we will whiff on everybody and get no one.
I disagree on that.
What I'm
they
convinced
will
is
sign players.
No matter what they do, a good chunk, at least 40% of the people in the comments can be convinced it's a disaster.
Nobody's gonna be happy. But it's just like, and here's what I'll say: I gave the fan base a lot of shit during this show. I feel like you have a reason to be ornery, right? Like we're gonna do a whole show at some point on the league is passing them by to some degree. These young guys are ascending, and they're going on these conference finals runs. And Sixers fans are just waiting and waiting and waiting. You, unlike some other team fan bases locally, you have a right to be a bit impatient. Like, it's time. Make a run. Go do something. Go get that guy or those multiple guys to go on a title run. But, yeah, Davon, I feel confident in saying they will not get no one
They won't go
this summer. They will sign
They won't be
players.
shut out. They will not. And our buddy Real Time with Prince Blue.
I was just going to say, I don't remember bringing this up, but I also, I'm accused by Devon all the time, I don't listen, but this one definitely has to be brought
Yeah, he
up.
don't listen. He don't listen. Kyle is on this Charlie Brown swag.
And you guys are all just sitting there hearing me go, wah, 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 wah.
Appreciate it.
No, that's when Devon talks, because we're not listening.
Because you don't listen. I don't know.
There's no
We
words.
got another super chat right at the end.
Mad
here.
Dog No Good. That's from Martin where what's his name? Gary Coleman played the role of whatever he was.
Is that his name on the show?
In Mad
I thought
Dog
this
No
was like
Good.
a Mad Dog, what's his name reference.
Oh, okay.
'Cause
No,
he
no.
looks like a Knicks guy.
That's
so
the
they're
name
from New York.
Martin for sure.
Okay.
Where Gary Coleman played a character and he was like a bully. And he's not very tall and bullying, right?
I'm not going to make any insensitive comments, but
Right.
someone's going to have to explain to me the mechanics behind
That was the
Gary
joke.
Coleman bullying
That was
someone.
the joke. Now you got to watch the episode now. So that I got to get you on the episode. OG played Game 7 versus the Pacers on a bad hammy.
Are you gonna let him for not listening to the show? Because we talked about that.
I will.
He gave us money, so you can't.
Once you read
Once
the
we
super
finish.
chat,
He wouldn't have risked that if he wasn't staying in New York. Agent is Leon Rose's son. It is what it is, fellas. Mad Dog, no good.
The blue and orange
So
with the Statue of
you're not
Liberty.
listening.
Hey, I'm going to bully you like I would fucking Gary Coleman's ass.
I was gonna say this is putting us in a weird
I
spot.
said it already.
Because on the one hand, he gave us money. On the other hand, we both talked about this, and he's a Knicks fan, so I feel like we can bully him even though he gave us money.
Tip him over, and then he won't be able to get up.
Listen,
be like a
Ampu-
turtle on its shell on its back.
Anpu Man says, Martin Junkies, no. LOL. Yes, I know. Mad Dog, no good. From the great Martin series.
Legitimately, in the first 2 minutes of the show, I said he's not going anywhere, and Kyle called me an asshole for it.
No, I said you were a POS. So get it right over there. I'm fact checking you. What's that guy on? Not CNN. One of the other ones. That's like the whole job is just fact checking people.
Oh, yeah, this is.
He's great.
Daniel Dale.
Big NBA
That's
fan,
it.
too.
He is a big NBA guy.
pretty
That's
sure he
why I
follows
remembered
me.
him.
Yeah, Daniel Dale. Yeah, he has that. All right, Western Conference Finals, Game 1. What do you guys got in the series?
I mean, I would say I shouldn't say I want the Wolves to win because I don't have like animosity
No, you
against
don't,
Dallas.
no.
I have friends in Minnesota though that I'm rooting for their joy and success. So, and I enjoy watching Ant-Man play more than any of the other.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Anthony.
I also, by the way, I'm not going to get on my soapbox about this.
Please, yes, you are. Just wind him up a little bit, and he'll be on the
Kyrie
soapbox.
is the most skilled player ever thing is one of the most ridiculous takes that I see on a regular basis.
Well, it's all because of the handles and the layups around the
He
rim.
has one of the most aesthetically pleasing
Yes.
games ever. If you're the most skilled player ever, you can't score like 11 points against the Thunder in a game you fucking lose in the second round. That just irritates me all the time. I don't know. Whatever. It's not really worth it.
I am rooting for the teams I enjoy watching more. That's the Pacers, and that weirdly is the Wolves almost entirely because of Ant.
Yeah.
As much as I
just
appreciate
not even the
Luka,
game too. It's just like the trash talk
Yeah.
and the theatrics and the
He's fun, man. He makes the game fun.
yeah.
He really does. I'm rooting for. I want to see Minnesota advance because there was a lot with the Anthony Edwards piece. To your point of all the talking and all the theatrics that come with it, so many people would knock him down because of that. And now with him doing this, and even when he didn't have a good game 7, he found other ways to impact the game. He hit a big
I
shot.
thought he made pretty good decisions with the
He
ball.
did. He did.
When
He
you're
hit-
struggling
hit
with
that
your
big
shot,
in the corner, and that was my favorite part. Look, when he hit the big shot and turned to the crowd there right along the corner of the baseline.
And he's just
barking like, yeah, look. I was like, yeah.
That's my guy.
And no rooting
I don't
interest.
even know him,
It
but
was
that's
just
my
fun.
guy.
Well, yeah, and it was just fun. So I am rooting for. I want to see Minnesota, and the Towns piece adds to it. That was fun. I like Mike Conley, the Jaden McDaniel stuff. He's a dog.
Oh, yeah.
Like when he broke his hand last year, that's punching
That was
the
a
wall.
dumbass
It
moment.
was dumb, but you know why? Because you see the type of dude he is. He's like, no nonsense. He punches the wall because he's ticked off. I like that Minnesota team. I want to see them advance, and we'll see what happens from there. But you have a series prediction, or you just go?
Just
you
give me
go
the
with-
Wolves.
Just go with the
I'll
Wolves.
take the Wolves.
Go with the Wolves. I'm with the Wolves. Also, all right.
It's a funky matchup though.
It is.
It is.
It really is.
It is. And Dallas plays tough, so we'll see how that goes. Davon with another one. Think Morey waits too long chasing stars again.
We are going to know soon enough.
He's gonna
my friend. I
might
promise
jump
you
on that right, pretty quickly. Roll call.
It
Time
is
for the
roll
roll
call
call.
time. Thank you, everyone, for putting up with me and as real time said it, my Charlie Brown shirt today. Thank you, everyone else, for being here.
Man.
Yeah, I
You
don't
need the
listen. It's
stripes.
just yellow. Whatever.
Yeah.
Thank you to
We did
Bootzilla.
have a pre-show bet of how many times your shirt.
I'm pretty
was
sure
mentioned.
it went
I think
over.
it went on. Did it go over?
'Cause
Because that's
there
the
were-
only one I saw.
I don't think before we mentioned it, I think it was under.
There was you're well dressed.
It went over. Bree said it
Super
went
producer
over.
Bree
See,
is
but I don't know
on
if
it.
well dressed counts because it has to be specifically about the color. No. All right.
Yesterday we
All
got
right.
props for our T-shirts. All of us. I saw
I
that.
didn't know wearing a T-shirt
Anyway.
gets you props.
We
but
got
I'll
props.
take it.
I think
I'll
we
take
had
it.
cool
Thank you,
t-shirts,
everyone,
I
for
guess.
being here.
I don't know.
Thank you to Ramid. Thank you to Barbara Carroll. I'm my own yams now! Exclamation point.
What up, Mid?
Martian Lynch, the #1 trash talker in the
Lynch,
chat.
Jamie's
Ampu
cousin.
Mines. Bootzilla.
Boots.
Winona, my girl. Garbanzo, Jay the Jungle, Lost Sleep TV, Garmello, Khalil Wilson,
What
Keith
up, Lil?
B, X-Man, Jonathan Chen,
X.
Maine, Remo K, Eugene Ross, Darkness.
Darkness.
I just heard it,
Darkness.
the Charlie Murphy. Darkness! Darkness! Money Mar, Public Enemy number 1. WC13 PHI 215, who says, I got Kyrie effed up. I respect Kyrie. He's not the most skilled player ever. Let's be serious. Get out of here with that nonsense.
It's like urine
Davon,
test yellow.
a.k.a. Schoolboy Beats, Walter James, Phi Chi, Khalil Wilson.
Chi, what up?
Chris D.
Chris.
I think we're running out of names here. Akil McKnight. I think we're getting close to the end here. Malcolm Carrington. Remo K.
What up, Remo?
Mad Dog, no good. And that's word to Gary Coleman.
Gary Coleman.
If you are not already, hit that subscribe.
Oh, our buddy.
Who's our buddy?
He's back after having the procedure done on the men.
Is he back?
What up, Al?
What's up, Al?
The 2-minute warning is in the chat. What up, Al? Yes, Barb. We saw it. We're saying what up to Al. Salute, as Ramid says.
Thank you to Al for coming through while he's still on the mend. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell icon so you can get notifications each and every time that we go live. Hit the thumbs up button if you want the Sixers to do smart things and not dumb things this offseason. If you want them to sign the players that you like, hit that thumbs up, and maybe Daryl Morey will listen to this show and follow all your advice.
And if you don't, we're going to send the florist, Mad Dog No Good, a.k.a. Gary Coleman, your way. Hit the like and subscribe button, and that's all to it.
We'll be back at 2:30, everybody, tomorrow. See ya.
We all silly like the mayor.